Do you know that there is a hidden knowledge that has inspired all the great religions of the world? This superior knowledge allows us to answer the questions that have been very difficult to answer. Who am I? Where do I come from? Where am I going to? What is the purpose of my life?
Could you please define Gnosis and explain why you call it a superior knowledge?
With pleasure. The word gnosis comes from Greek and means knowledge. However, it is evident that we are not referring to an ordinary form of knowledge. Gnosis refers to a superior and transcendental wisdom for humanity. The word gnosis is derived from the word jinn, from the Parsi and Arab dijin or jinn. It has been called by several names in different civilizations. For example, Jannah, Jannah, Ganna, or Gnosis. Gnosis is Janus science, that is, the science of the initiatic knowledge, or the science of the sages. You must have heard the story about the genie of the lamp in Arabian Nights. This genie is nothing but the jinn, the gnosis, the sacred and superior knowledge that can give us answers, boons, gifts that we need. And each one of us has this knowledge hidden, latent inside us. We just need to learn how to use the lamp, metaphorically speaking. We're living in the so-called information or knowledge age. We have abundant information about all external things. However, we have very little information or knowledge about our inner constitution. How do we work? What makes us happy? What makes us sad? Why and how do we succeed, and how do we fail when we fail? The problem is that we have invented thousands of very complicated and difficult machines, and we know quite well that it sometimes takes long years of learning before getting to know and use a machine. But we have completely forgotten the fact that we are a more complicated machine than all the ones we have invented. There is no man who does not have wrong ideas about himself. The serious problem is that we do not pay enough attention to our own self. Gnosis is a knowledge that allows us to discover ourselves in a complete and authentic manner. We do not deny that an intellectual education, a profession, and a skill to earn money are necessary. But that is not all. There are many cases of individuals who have a good house, a fine car, an excellent wife, beautiful children, and enough money, and however, they are not happy. On the other hand, there are people who do not enjoy living in a magnificent mansion, nor have more money than what they need for their daily food, nor have a smart, brand new car, and nevertheless, they are happy at home with their children. They are poor but clean and tidy. So it is not money in itself that can bring us happiness. We need a superior knowledge, a knowledge that allows us to know more intimately about our own self. Once we know ourselves well, we can truly be happy. The highest knowledge is gnosis, the knowledge about us, the knowledge in us. This knowledge can be activated inside us by a special effort. All the great civilizations of the world have used this inner knowledge to reach the peak of their civilizations. They have all drunk from the same original source, that is gnosis.
Very interesting. So you're saying that Gnosis is a knowledge that has been responsible for the rise of all great civilizations in the past?
Yes. If you take into account the Gnostic teachings contained in civilizations, including Persia, Mesopotamia, Syria, India, Tibet, Palestine, Egypt, etc., as well as in the sublime cults of the Indo-American Nahuas, Toltecs, Aztecs, Zapotecs, and Mayas, you will find that all of them use the same principles of knowledge. Also, Buddha, Hermes Trismegistus, Krishna, Quetzalcoatl, or Jesus of Nazareth, the Great Kabir, all of them have delivered a message. Each of these messages from heaven contain in themselves the same cosmic principles, entirely impersonal and universal. The body of doctrine which we are delivering now is revolutionary in the widest sense of the word, but it contains the same principles that the Buddha secretly taught his devotees, or also those delivered by the great Kabir in secret to his disciples. This helps us to notice that knowing who we are, where we come from, and where we are going to has always been a fundamental aspiration of man. On the frontispiece of the Temple of Delphi, there is an old adage which says, Homo nosse te ipsum. It says, man, know yourself, and you will know the universe and the gods. The time has come to explore ourselves. Simply living our lives without knowing anything about ourselves, without knowing who we are, where we come from, or what we exist for, is not really worthwhile. We need to find the answers to all those questions, and for this sake, dear friends, the Gnostic studies have been born.
If I understand you correctly, you are saying that all ancient religions and civilizations have at some point in time practiced from the same principles, the ones you are calling Gnosis?
Yes, the Sufis and the whirling dervishes' secret science is within Gnosis. The secret doctrine of Buddhism and Taoism is within Gnosis. The Nordic people's sacred magic is within Gnosis. Hermes, Buddhas, Krishnas, Confucius, Mohammeds, Quetzalcoatl, etc. Wisdom is within Gnosis. The Christ doctrine is the very Gnosis. In Gnosis, we have all the ancient wisdom already fully chewed and digested.
If wisdom is universal and eternal, and found latent within all human beings, then in what way is it found inside us?
Gnosis is a very natural function of the consciousness. Consciousness is one of the 7 energies every human being has, and is one of the highest energies found inside us. It is this consciousness that carries within itself the superior knowledge, the Gnosis. Consciousness has also been called conscience, or the inner voice, or chetna, or chit, or our soul.
If consciousness is found inside every human being, and has the knowledge or wisdom latent or hidden inside it, then why do most people never seek this knowledge, or Gnosis in daily life?
Even though the consciousness is inside every person, and it carries within itself the light of Gnosis in a latent manner, the obstacles to activate this knowledge are many. It is like the story you may have heard about the golden musk deer that is fascinated by its musk perfume and runs around trying to find the source, but does not realize that the source is inside itself. Students search here and there, and the only thing that the poor aspirants accomplish is to be full of terrible intellectual doubts and confusions. There are millions of theories and thousands of authors. Some repeat the ideas of others, some reject others. The result is frightening for most poor seekers. They do not know what to do. They long for light. They beg, implore, and nothing comes. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Another obstacle is that in everyday life, people have their own criterion, their more or less long-established way of thinking. We all think that our criterion is the best. The learned ignoramuses, or the people who think they know a lot, are the most difficult. For the truth is that in Socratic terms, they not only do not know, but also ignore that they do not know. The brilliant procession of ideas gives them self-sufficiency to reject anything that does not smell like library dust or university ink. Those poor people of the intellect want to put an ocean into a crystal glass. They suppose that universities can control all the wisdom of the universe, and that all the laws of the cosmos are forced to submit themselves to their old academic rules. The lovers of reason want to scrutinize the mysteries of nature with the poor faculty of the intellect. We could not deny that the mind and reason are useful in practical life to carry out certain daily tasks, but wanting to analyze and solve the great mysteries of life and death with the intellect is the same as wanting to observe the stars with a microscope or bacteria with a telescope. It is said in Gnostic esotericism that good means what is in its place, and bad what is out of its place. So we may affirm that the intellect within its orbit is good. However, the intellect outside of its orbit damages us terribly. Therefore, we need to experiment and verify the concepts ourselves. Latent within us, there are faculties superior to the mind that are independent of the intellect and able to give us knowledge and the direct experience of any phenomena. We must understand that opinions, concepts, theories, and hypotheses do not mean verification, experimentation, full consciousness of any phenomena. Dear friends, Gnosis offers you keys and procedures to experiment by yourself in a scientific way each of the elements that make up the universal wisdom. Theories are useless. We need to be practical and know by our own experience the purpose of our existence.
If you've made this journey yourself, can you share with us some insights on how this journey can be done?
With pleasure. Our own particular gnosis or knowledge can be rediscovered by having a practical attitude, a way of living that always involves observing, paying attention to, and exploring our own consciousness through practices that allow us to develop it fully. You are familiar that if we have to develop physical stamina or energy, we need to do physical exercises. Similarly, consciousness is another type of energy inside us. If we have to develop it, we need to engage in conscious practices and procedures. As you continue to practice them seriously and diligently, you will start to awaken the hidden faculties inside your consciousness. With enough discipline, one day you will be able to fully awaken 100% consciousness inside yourselves.
Could you please explain to us what these principles of universal wisdom are and how we will be able to study them in this course?
Absolutely. There are three main principles that define the Gnostic knowledge, and at the same time, differentiate it from other doctrines. These are the psychological self-annihilation of what is not real within us, that is, all the undesirable elements that make up the ego, the myself, the living personification of all our errors, defects, and vices. The harmonious unfoldment of the superior faculties latent inside us that allow the perception of the great realities in this and other dimensions. The unselfish and constant deed in favor of humanity, sacrificing personal interest to bring welfare to our fellow beings. This course is organized in the form of 4 great columns or themes of study. Let me explain a little about each one of them here. Philosophy. As a philosophy, Gnosis always implies a message, an orientation, a teaching that is always directed towards man's consciousness. Throughout time, different hierophants of knowledge shone in the deep night of all ages. However, the present times are a moment of confusion. Humankind finds itself in a state of chaos. There is a worldwide crisis and a bankruptcy of all ethical and moral principles. In this moment, we have to delve deep into the wisdom of the past, extracting from among codices the precise orientation to guide us in the present time. This is, dear friends, the purpose of Gnostic anthropology. The Gnostic anthropology is a psychoanalytical anthropology. By means of psychoanalysis, we can extract from different archaeological remains, niches, pyramids, tombs, etc., the principles contained in them. Art. There are 2 kinds of art. One is the subjective art that leads nowhere. The other is the royal art of nature, the objective and real art, the transcendental art. The latter obviously contains in itself precious cosmic truths. This is, my friends, the Gnostic art, the art we find in pyramids and in old obelisks, in the hieroglyphics, and in the bas-reliefs of the pharaoh's Egypt, in all the works of ancient Mexico, in the archaeological relics of the Mayas, Aztecs, Zapotecs, Toltecs, etc., or in the old parchments of the Middle Ages, in Michelangelo's paintings and sculptures, in Beethoven's, Mozart's, Liszt's, or Richard Wagner's music, in the works of universal literature, Homer's Iliad, Dante's Divine Comedy, etc. We also find beautiful paintings with great teaching in all those medieval works of art, in Gothic cathedrals, etc. Let's remember the Gioconda, for example. In that great work, we may see the Divine Mother, Stella Maris, as medieval alchemists called her, the Virgin of the Sea, who wisely directs the workers of the great work. Amongst the Aztecs, she is Tonantzin. Amongst the Greeks, the chaste Diana. And in Egypt, she is Isis, the Divine Mother. Amongst Indians, the venerable goddess Durga. It is important to make it clear in an emphatic way that each of us has his or her own particular and individual Divine Mother. In reality, we must assert that the royal art of nature is a way of transmitting cosmic teachings. The dancing dervishes, for example, imitated in a perfect way all the movements of the planets around the sun. Among dramas, the most ancient is the Cosmic Christ. The initiates knew very well that each of us must become the Christ of such a drama if we really aspired to the Superman's kingdom. Science. When we talk about science, we think about a pure science like the one which was used by Jesus or Moses to perform wonders. Pure science is direct, vivid, and real experience. Science nowadays is a false science, a science which is full of personal interest, a science that does not respect human beings' spiritual principles, a science in which the end justifies the means, even when this implies the physical and psychological pain of any living creature, a science that justifies the most terrible atrocities with the word progress. So, there are two sorts of science, profane science and pure science. In pure science, there are no theories, but facts. If I told you that the Count of Saint Germain lived during the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries, and that he is still alive, you would think that I am mad. I know the Count of Saint Germain, and I testify that this is true. He is alive. Yes, his life is maintained by a science that you do not know. By pure science, the Superman's science, the science known to the extraterrestrials who travel across infinite space. Gnostic scientists have different systems to carry out research. We have special disciplines that enable the human being to activate certain latent faculties of the brain, which are completely unknown to materialistic science, and which allow us to verify by ourselves all of these questions. Religion. If we carry out a comparative study of the great religions, we will find that they all rest upon the same pillars. The word religion comes from the term RELIGARE. That is to say, the fundamental objective of all religious principles is to re-link, to return man to his own divinity. In fact, there is really one single religion, unique and cosmic. This religion adopts different religious shapes according to the times and needs of humankind. Consequently, religious struggles are absurd because, in essence, all religions are simply modifications of the universal cosmic religion. It is obvious that every mystical institution in the world loves the divine. Allah, Brahma, Tao, Zen, I-A-O, Inri, Monad, Being, God, etc. In all cults, there are heavens, superior dimensions, the eons of the Hebraic Kabbalah, and there are also their counterparts, hell, or the Roman Avernus, the Greek Tartarus, the Aztec Mictlan, the Mayan Xibalba, etc. Jesus the Christ is represented among the Persians by Ormuz, Ahura Mazda, biggest enemy, of Ahriman or Satan, whom we carry inside. Among the Hindustanis, Krishna is the Christ. And Krishna's gospel is very similar to Jesus of Nazareth's. Among the Egyptians, the Christ is Osiris, and everybody who reincarnated with him was in fact Osirified. Among the Chinese, Fu Si is the cosmic Christ, who wrote the I Ching, the Book of Changes, and appointed dragon ministers. In the same way, we could quote the cosmic Christ in thousands of archaic books in old traditions from millions of years before Jesus. The similarities among all religious forms are so amazing. However, all the precepts, the teachings, and the indications of religious cults are good for nothing if we do not experiment with them ourselves. Gnosis studies the science of religions. Gnostics create faith based on experience, on verification, not on theories. What we need is religious science and a scientific religion. In the midst of the 20th century, Dr. Samael Aun Weor, an illustrious writer, philosopher, sociologist, and esoterist, a man who has been brave enough to eliminate all the factors of discord from his psyche, has added his name to the list of enlightened beings. He has researched all the mysteries of the past and brought them in the form of an easy-to-understand knowledge with the name of Gnosis, or Gnostic anthropology. In this time, known as the Age of Aquarius, Samael Aun Weor is, by the will of all those enlightened divine intelligences who created everything, the messenger or avatar, commissioned to deliver an accurate map so that nobody gets lost in the dark confusion of so many theories. With that purpose, Dr. Samael wisely created a vehicle for presenting the Gnostic principles to humankind. We are evidently referring to the Gnostic Association, Ageac. All the studies offered at present by our institution are based upon the unique work of this great humanist, who has unveiled these magnificent and enriching mysteries through his more than 60 works, plus hundreds of lectures, manifestos, epistles, and dialogues with his disciples. Ageac, the non-profit organization, is an international, esoteric, scientific, and cultural institution consisting of people from a wide range of professional activities. Ageac has just one single purpose: delivering and sharing with our fellow human beings in a serious and scientific way the Gnosis of all times, the knowledge which allows modern man to have a more humane, conscious, and therefore transcendent vision of his existence.